Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So it's 3:42 in London. It's 8:42 in El Salvador. I'm here in cloudy El Salvador. I don't think you can see it because I'm looking to the right here. I can see lots of clouds. I'm in San Salvador at the moment. And I'm going to analyze the charts. So yeah, let's have a look, see what's going on. My last stream was on Sunday and I had some ideas and it didn't really quite work out the way I imagined. So not really a big deal, because when you're trading, if it doesn't do what you want it to do, you don't really take the trade. Although you could argue it has done, it is kind of doing what I imagined. You could argue it is. But it's kind of hard to take a trade at the CME gap, because that's really what I was thinking of when it kind of washed the CME gap instantly, didn't it? Let's have a look at the gap. There it is. You see that? That's the CME gap. And you've got these higher time frame levels, local volume. I'll have to update that. Higher volume. And the question is, what's happening here now with Bitcoin? Well, I think it's really bullish. Huh? I think if it was bearish, and this is what I'm thinking it was bearish, it would have gone up to the CME gap and instantly rejected. And it didn't do that. It kind of tried to kind of get through it. It tried to find support here. Lost it, went back up. Now it's coming back down. What's happening here? What's going on here? You're clearly getting a lot of selling, huh? And that's the thing. That's what I'm seeing. I'm getting a lot of selling, but we're getting a lot of absorption, and that's the other thing. So we're getting a lot of people who are really bearish because Bitcoin's just rejected from all-time highs. So we're getting a lot of selling, a lot of shorting. People are expecting Bitcoin to crash. They're expecting the end of Bitcoin season, Bitcoin bull market, all that kind of malarkey. And so a lot of people are taking shorts. And at the same time, it looks like we're getting quite heavy absorption, like absorption as in longs opening as well. Like the price of Bitcoin is being absorbed. And kind of when I'm looking at this slightly higher time frame, let me hide this. I'm going to look at my indicators now. Hide my analysis. It's not a big deal. When I'm looking at my indicators now, you see on the MACD, we're seeing hidden bullish divergence on this daily time frame, and it's really evident, isn't it? Look at that. And so you can't really ignore that. You can't just ignore that. And then from here to here, we're getting some kind of divergence on the CCI. And even though here, the CCI here is leading, and it's kind of, it looks like it's breaking out. It looks like it's breaking out here, and it's a leading indicator. So there's a lot of things that are telling me maybe we're actually about to pump. The other thing that I'm seeing here is the price is decreasing. Let me just get rid of these lines. The price is decreasing, and the volume is decreasing too. That usually means that there's some kind of consolidation going on here. It's more of a correction rather than a sell-off, and it feels like a correction. It doesn't feel like a sell-off. And so people are naturally bearish because we've just taken out the all-time highs. But what you have here is a poor high as well. That's the other thing to bear in mind. This here is a poor high. It's not a strong high. It's not like a wick. it has been wicked in. It's been it closed and then it's sold into. And so typically when that happens, the price usually comes back up to test, at the very least to test. And if you go up to test, then your V-shaped recovery, then it's a V-shaped recovery if you go up to test, if you can manage to take out the high. So I don't know, I just kind of feel, look, I kind of feel that we're possibly about to go up. And so here you see on the weekly chart, I did say, wouldn't it be nice if we closed above the previous weekly 50 fib? And I said that on Sunday. Let me have a look at that. Where is that? Is that line here? Look. Let me just draw it again, just so I show you. And so this red candle, and the way I work it out is the body. I don't consider the wicks. I consider the open to close. The 50 fib was at 110832, and you see the weekly candle closed above the 50 fib, the previous 50 fib, and it closed above that previous weekly low. We've already gone back down to test the previous weekly low on this week, and we're trading up. We've gone up. We haven't taken out the previous week high yet. So actually, this is looking really bullish for me. This is looking really bullish. And that was a piercing candle, which is a bullish candle. We need another green candle. And then we're looking at a reversal here. All right. So I kind of feel that this is looking really bullish right now. Just the way the candles are formed. Just that weekly close to me was quite bullish. The volume was quite nice. So we're getting quite nice volume. And I'm just having a look at these other candles to see what's going on. Anything interesting? I mean, naturally, I'm streaming and you get this kind of big 1 hour sell-off with increasing volume. So there's a little bit of sell-off going on right now as I'm streaming. Let me have a look at the order flow and see what's going on there. So we are, wow, we're getting so this is the thing. This is what I'm saying. We're getting bearish absorption here. So this is bearish CVD. You can see that because the CVD is just put in a local high and the price. So we are getting bearish CVD. This is actually bearish today because we're underneath the daily open. We're underneath the VWAP and we're putting in bearish CVD. So today it's bearish. So I don't want to kind of make people like go, oh, it's really bullish, buy. Whereas I can see today that it's looking quite bearish right now. So you just have to be aware of that. But over this range, and this is what I'm talking about, over this range, you see what's going on. The CVD just keeps on going down and down and down and down, and the lows keep on getting higher. It just looks like we're getting gigantic absorption here. See that? The price of Bitcoin is being absorbed. See how the CVD is going down and the lows are getting higher. Now, this whole thing invalidates if and when we take out this pivot low here, wherever the pivot low is, okay? And I'll have a look at that in a second. Let me just have a look at this drop here. Let me just see if there's any single prints because, yeah, there's a few single prints here. I'm not going to bother mark them out, but we put in some single prints. So this is quite bearish right now. So currently, as I'm speaking, it's bearish, but overall, it's still looking quite bullish. So you've got to kind of contextualize the time frame. Now it's looking bearish, but overall, it's still looking quite bullish. And it's just, we have to kind of go back to the charts and see what's going on here. Getting a little bit of a sell-off. Let me get my indicators. Let me get back up, but go back to my Friday analysis here. No, not my Friday analysis. That was not what. Not that one. The Sunday analysis. That's it. So that short was not an easy short. Not an easy short to take. It was the right area, but really I was looking at the CME gap, and the CME gap was filled and it was washed a couple of times. So that short, even though it was the right area, it wasn't in play. It wasn't in play. And actually what I'm looking at now, even though I have the price potentially going down to here for a long. The reality is what I'm actually looking at here is a little bit of an inverse head and shoulders pattern forming here. And so the question is, what happens next? Because going all the way down here would change this a little bit. It would change the pattern a little bit. And where you have an inverse head and shoulders here, you could end up with some kind of inverse head and shoulders with a larger head here, like that. If we go down all the way down to pick up the liquidity down here. And the reason why I said that there's liquidity here is because when I looked at the volume, there's a point of control. You've got a CME gap down there as well, and you've got some higher time frame levels. A really strong level all the way down at $108,000. And so the question here is, how do we form? Are we forming the right shoulder here? Is this like a mini head and shoulders here, and this is it? Or do we get a flash drop to hit our liquidity area here, which is kind of what I indicated initially on Sunday, and then pump for a real complicated head and shoulders pattern here, right back up, take out those highs, another shoulder, and then once that happens, you're probably expanding probably all the way to all-time highs. But there's a massive liquidity zone here to short. So there's a lot of things going on here, but Bitcoin is not crashing yet. You know, it's not. I don't feel the bull market's over, and it doesn't look like it's over. And so that's kind of why I'm still bullish, because I'm seeing absorption across this range, from these lows. I've seen it. Unless we now take out these lows, taking out those lows would invalidate the CVD, but the bullish CVD. And so as long as we don't take out those lows, I'm seeing bullish absorption here. And that's what I'm going to be keenly looking at as we go forward, analyzing Bitcoin. So going back to my Sunday analysis, that's one idea. The other idea is we just kind of form a right shoulder here, because we're looking at a little bit of a inverse head and shoulders here, and we just kind of can't get down here, and then we just break out like that. So that's, but at the moment, because we're looking at the order flow, and because the order flow is looking a little bit bearish, let me go and have a look at this, the imbalances again. Let me have a look. There's some shorts loading up there. There's some longs loading up there. Shorts, there's some shorts loading. So there's some shorts loading up to here in this candle, and some longs. So that short, think about 3 million shorts. How many shorts are there? 1.4 million shorts. It's already underwater. What's that? You see this long? Wow, look at that long. That's 23 million positive delta. Shit, that's a fucking big long. Look at that. Oh yeah, so this is actually really quite bearish, in a sense that the long, if the price drops underneath this area, then that long is going to be underwater, and they'll have to close their position, and that will just cause the price to drop. So you've got a really brave long here coming with positive delta, which has been absorbed, yeah. So this is quite bearish here. If that long gets trapped, that's going to cause the price to crash in, drop again. Okay, so you just have to bear that in mind. But otherwise, that's a brave long. That's a brave long. And I don't see crazy shorts loading up, unless of course we kind of reverse this drop, this 10 million drop, which is actually only about, it's like 20 million negative delta in that drop. And if you reverse that, then you're going to have shorts caught underwater. But you see that the CVD is going down. So CVD going down across this range means that shorts are loading up. Okay. Wow, look at that. What is that? Let me go to a slightly higher time. Let me go to 4-hour time frame. Yeah. Okay, so what next? Well, nothing really. I mean, it's just going back to my original chart analysis. If we get a drop, that's a good place to long. But this could be forming an inverse head and shoulders pattern here. Yeah. I don't know how I would take a trade here, to be honest with you, because of the bearish CVD. I'd probably wait for the bearish CVD to invalidate, possibly from here a breakout long would be the long, to be honest with you. That might be the trade, a breakout long. It's hard taking breakout longs, but effectively that's what I'd be thinking about right now in this position, because the right shoulder has potentially formed, and you wouldn't gamble because you don't know if it can drop down to make a more complicated head and shoulders. But effectively you're looking at a breakout long here with slightly wider invalidation, and then a measured move taking us all the way up to there, kind of something like that. That's kind of what I'm imagining here now for a long, a breakout long, or a drop to the same place that I indicated on Sunday for the price to react somewhere down here, the golden pocket, or the point of control into the 786 for a more complicated right head and shoulders pattern with kind of a larger head. You see that, a larger head, right shoulder, and then another breakout to the upside. So this is food for thought. Otherwise I wouldn't mess around. I mean, could you short? Yeah, I mean, you could short if you wanted to. I had a short, but honestly right now, because I'm seeing overall bullish CVD, because the weekly candle was piercing, I'm kind of thinking up, I'm not thinking down. So probably wouldn't be shorting unless I saw a real kind of I see this bullish CVD invalidate, the lows are taken. If the lows are taken, then I think things start to change significantly, because it just looks like we're actually the bulls have been overpowered and the bears are fully in control. Then it starts to fall, and it really starts to fall. Then we start to lose significant levels. And so I think this is the last level of support for Bitcoin if it wants to explode up. And I am thinking up. I'm not thinking down, but again, the price never moves in straight lines, and so you just have to kind of bear that in mind. So let me just hide that. Let me go back to the monthly time frame candle. Yeah, so we've gone up, we've gone up from that red candle. We're pushing up. It's an inside candle from the previous month. Technically bearish. Could this be a bear trap at the highs? I like that weekly candle, to be honest with you. I like that piercing candle there. I like that we closed above the previous week low. So there's a few things I like about these candles. And you see here in the 3-day candle, we've got 8 hours to go, and we're kind of trying to find support here. It looks like, you see on the 3-day time frame, it looks like we're trying to find support here, isn't it? That's what it looks like. It looks like the price of Bitcoin is trying to find support. You have to remember that crypto or Bitcoin or anything always looks bearish or crazy bearish before it becomes super bullish. Yeah. It's never like bullish and then really bullish. It's always bearish into crazy bullish. And that's the key. And so when you're feeling bearish, when everything's looking bearish, when we're at the lows, when it looks like it wants to crash, when everything looks shit, that's actually probably the right place to buy. And the inverse of that is true. When everything looks really bullish, when everything looks like it wants to go higher and higher and higher, that's usually the right place to sell, you know? So it's always the inverse of what you could imagine when it comes to buying and selling. So in this case, if you start feeling bearish, then maybe it's a good time to buy. Yeah, or good place, time to buy. And if you think that we're above 111,000, is this it? Is this the end? Probably not, because we're in price discovery. And that's kind of another thing that I'm kind of thinking to myself. We've just entered price discovery in a meaningful way. It'd be mental for this just to be the end, especially with the Federal Reserve reducing interest rates next week. They're going to reduce interest rates for 3 months. That's a big deal, and that's kind of why the dollar has been dropping. So when you kind of have a look at the DXY, yeah, I mean, it's obviously been priced in a little bit, but look, the DXY is struggling. You see that? And then if you were to go to kind of, let's have a look at the GBP. Look at that. It's going up against the pound's going up against the dollar. You see that? And so these are kind of signs that possibly something big is coming. And then the other thing to look at, which is kind of giving me this kind of a little bit of a bias here, is Bitcoin dominance. And look at that. It just looks like Bitcoin dominance. It doesn't want to go up. It wants to go down, huh? Yeah, it doesn't look strong to go up. It looks like it wants to continue. Yeah, so I've got this kind of 1, 2, 3. This is kind of like, these are like opium trend lines, really. They're not actual trend lines. The actual trend was that yellow line, which I previously drew. And then we found support and it went up, and then we lost it. We're kind of into the lower part of the golden, the reverse of the golden pocket now. You lose that, and you could actually bam, 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 go down really fast. Like another drop, big drop. Like that. And then the question is, do you fall back into this triangle? Because if you do, then you're going all the way down, aren't you? Right back down to the lows here. And this whole thing becomes a deviation. And then this is your mega, this becomes your mega alt season. And then the question is, where is a good place to kind of exit your alts if that was to happen? Well, it's all speculation, isn't it? And none of this is financial advice. I think the golden pocket is always a good place. But then, you know, once you're in this, back in this triangle, this whole thing is bearish then for Bitcoin dominance. And it could, you know, it could go down further, you know, and that's the thing. So there's a lot of things that could happen if we get back into this triangle. And so the first kind of real test will be to see if we can get back into these lows. And then let me just have a look at the point of control here. I'll look to that in a while. We have this value area low, which is at the 50 fib. That's at 50%. So naturally, that's probably going to be a pretty heavy support level. That will probably be the target if we do. You've got these fib levels. They will be targets. You know, they will be targets. Do you go down to there? Do you go back up? Do you go back down? You know, like, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen. It's very different to before. But it could just go down and down and down and crash, crash, crash. You see here, there was no support there. Is there going to be support here? Probably, because we found support here. And so there's no reason why there wouldn't be support here. And then here, is there going to be support? Probably not as much. So possibly that will be your target. Your 50% will be the next target if BTCD drops. And then you're back in the triangle, aren't you? You're back in this kind of higher time frame triangle. That becomes really bearish. The price could just kind of go up, try and get out, but then drop again. And then that's your kind of real target, these low. That will be the golden pocket. Would that be the end of alt season? Possibly not, Possibly not, because even though that would be a good place to exit and take profit and make good money, then you could go up to retest and the value area high there, find resistance of the top of that triangle, and then you could just drop again like that, and that could take another year. So it may not look pretty for alts, because by then Bitcoin has dominance stopped moving. It's just going sideways until you get your final push, possibly at the end of the year or something like that. That's kind of like an idea of what could happen. And then actually that will be the end, That would be the end, because you've kind of reached your limit. Maybe to break out again, maybe to break up to the upside like that, and then everything changes again. So it's just food for thought. I'm just speculating. This is all kind of entertainment. Let's have a look at the SPX and see what's happening there. Nothing much really. It's just kind of lingering at the highs. And the Russell 2000. Today it's trying to pull him back, but see that? You're not really getting a big sell-off here, and it's just going up, and no one's really selling. And that's really interesting. No one's really selling. And then gold has fucking gone up to another all-time high. Look at that, 3,600. But possibly that's the end, Possibly that's the end of the gold run. Possibly. Wow, look at that. Gold. From that breakout has taken gold 76% increase in value. Now, with the dollar interest rates dropping, I imagine that this is going to drop too. This is quite a run, Look at that run. Bam, bam, bam. And this is the other thing. If gold starts pulling back, that value is going to go all the way into Bitcoin, isn't it? And when you see PAX gold against BTC, let's have a look. This is on Binance. We're kind of at the lows here, aren't we? So it's actually, Bitcoin is still better than gold here, isn't it? Even though gold is getting a little bit of a little bounce here off the value area low. It does look like, because what's happening here is that you're hitting the lows. Eventually the lows break. Eventually, however it gets to, you drop. Yeah, that's what happens. And then you're into fib extensions, into inverse price discovery, gold against Bitcoin. That's what happens, If it was bullish the other way around, it would be different, but it's not. So that's the kind of trend line to look at. If that breaks, this value area low is getting washed. If you kind of hit that and just kind of break it, drop. How would you drop? You'd be dropping all the way down to there, really. That would be it. That would be your target. Look at that. Because look at that. Look at that formation there. It's almost like a head and shoulders pattern, isn't it? PAX gold against Bitcoin. Bam, bam. Whatever. It's like a big shoulder there. So that'll be interesting to see. And then a measured move would take it potentially all the way down to the 1 to 2, but that's quite low. So I think the targets would be these extended fibs here that I've marked out. These okay, so that's kind of where I'm at. Let me have a look at ETH BTC. Let's have a look at the weekly time frame on ETH BTC. Yeah, so unfortunately, that was still quite bearish because it closed lower. So ETH BTC isn't ready to go up just yet. But what you do see is something interesting. You've got decreasing volumes here, decreasing volume, decreasing prices. So even though it closed lower, it is actually decreasing volume in the selling. So you can tell that there's quite a lot of anticipation for something happening because the selling is dropping off. Even though it is kind of consolidating, it is kind of consolidations after the price moves, the price does go down, but you see the volume is dropping off. And that's kind of, it gives me the kind of the vibe that actually this is a correction. It's not a sell-off, which means we're not at the end. And even though the price of like ETH is dropping because of Bitcoin, because there's obviously a synergy, a reflection between Bitcoin and the rest of the market. It doesn't look bad. It doesn't look too bad. Okay. So I'm kind of thinking to myself, we're on the verge of something really big, and mainly because I think possibly because of Bitcoin dominance finding weakness. So you go back to Bitcoin dominance, have a look at Bitcoin dominance. Yeah, it's looking weaker here. It doesn't look strong. There's no bounce, there's no recovery. It's just kind of like loitering at the support level. For me, this is consolidation on support, which is bearish. And so you can see that it's just bearish consolidation on support here. And that's that eventually support breaks. That's what happens. And then the other thing is the total market cap. Can have a look at that. Let's go to the slightly higher time frame. You see, we're loitering at the highs here. We're above that. We're above that previous all-time high. This is bullish, you know, just kind of consolidating here above a previous all-time high. This isn't bearish. This is looking like consolidation, ready to go up another level. Let me have a look at these other ones quickly. Yeah. Nothing to see really. And then the other thing is that I've seen a lot of this is the other thing. I don't know. I don't usually kind of bother with other people on X, and I'm not really too fussed about what people say. But if you just go to X and just have a look at alt season, just do a search and you'll see, you know, you'll see. We've never been closer to alt season. Alt coins are about to explode. So I don't know where this index comes from. I have never seen this before. Oh, I have. I don't know where it's from though. But look, you see that we kind of, a lot of people are talking about alt season, September, October, and December. Look at that, rate cuts, rate cuts. That's quite interesting. The market rotation is heating up. Let's have a look at this little crypto jack. This is the BT. He's got a different kind of chart. It's very different. Top trend line. That's nice, actually. I like that. Possibly. It's possible. I could replicate that on BTCD. Let's have a look. That could be a different way of looking at the charts. Let me just get rid of these brush strokes. Hide. Get rid of that. How did he do that? Trend line. Right, so what he was looking at here was from this pivot area, that. Yeah, it's not exact, but whatever. I mean, he's made that shit up, hasn't he? Who knows? Maybe all the way down to the, I don't know. It's hopium, isn't it? It'd be nicer. I think probably here is the target, this breakout level there. You see, there's a little bit of a breakout level there. and you're looking to come and test the breakout, aren't you? Unless you can consider any one of these the breakout levels. But in this sense, you can see that there's a little bit of a pattern here. There's a little bit of a something here, isn't there? So I think in the first instance, whatever happens, that's your kind of target. But I mean, who knows? Maybe he's right. And that's why it's important in this next kind of big move to take profits, skim. So this whatever happens next, this is going to be the end. Wait for the moves, and then once the moves happen, start skimming. Don't put money back in. Don't put your USDT back in once you start skimming this time round, because this could be the big move if we do see a real rejection here, and then we just reverse all of this up move in a really fast manner. And it could be fast. It could be like 1 month or 6 weeks where this just goes down. And then you could be skimming, or you could be scaling out once you hit those resistance levels, taking it back to USDT and just kind of, and then just that would be the strategy until I mean, you could just go for broke and hope for grand riches at the lows here, and what Crypto Jack was saying, but that's big. It's a big risk, and you obviously don't want to get caught in a situation where you haven't taken profit, and the price, altcoins go up fast and they can come down really fast, and that's the other thing. This is another one. Look at this. So where are we now? Hope, optimism, belief, thrill, euphoria. So he's got that going up. I don't know. He's got these dates all fucked, haven't he? Like November, October, some whatever. Who knows? So you just got to be careful about these. So there's a lot of people like, oh, that's me. Interesting. What's this one? Others versus Bitcoin. Well, look at that. That MACD is crazy bullish, hidden bullish divergence there. You can see it. See that lower MACD, higher lows. So there's something about to happen for sure. 100%. I can see it. It's just that, as always, you can't predict it. And when it happens so fast. And then you just have to be positioned in. And that's the key. Yeah, you can't be out of the market waiting for the move. You just have to be positioned in and just wait for it to happen. There's going to be a rotation, and the rotation means that some coins will move first, and you kind of have to just not chase them. Here, look, this guy's saying end of alt season at the lows there. What's interesting is here on the RSI, he's got it at the highs there, and then maybe when the RSI comes all the way down to the lows is the end, huh? So it'd be important to look at the indicators as well to see how they're faring when the price of, say, this Bitcoin dominance chart reaches its target at the lows, etc. Yeah, let's have a look. Look at this one. 2021 breakout. September drop, and then up, and then breakout. Bam. This guy's predicting if it's the same thing. Who knows? This is the altcoin's total market cap. Drop and then up. Look at what this guy says. Crypto total market cap excluding BTC and ETH. He's got some kind of triangle. What time frame has he got? I can't see it. Daily time frame. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, maybe. What he's got is something like this. Look. Bam. Little breakout. Yeah, this is probably the best one actually. And this is total market cap excluding BTC ETH. Just have a look at my patterns here. Let me see if there's anything. Rising wedge target. You can see there's quite heavy anticipation for a mega alt season. So this is something to bear in mind, something to bear in mind. All right. So that's kind of my update. I think Bitcoin is looking bearish right now, getting a little bit of a pullback. But that's fine. That's normal. And we just have to see what happens here. Does Bitcoin continue to kind of consolidate like this? Oh shit, what did I do? If not, it'll break down and it'll go for my target. My target being there. Otherwise, a breakout long here would be nice on this inverse head and shoulders there. Otherwise, we're looking at a kind of a more complicated inverse head and shoulders with the price dropping into my target liquidity run, and then bam, boom. And then honestly, even though we've got a massive short zone here, it would be a big take profit for this breakout. But I would then think possibly, I mean, it could be a lower high as well, and that's the thing you have to bear in mind. So we just have to see how the price reacts. It's always about the reaction. But if you get a mega short squeeze, then you could rocket to the all-time high again. Yeah, that's something to kind of bear in mind. All right, so that's Bitcoin, and I've kind of had a look at alt season as well. Just kind of contemplating alt season a little bit. I hope that helps if people are watching the stream. What else do I want to look at? I do want to look at TRVL. I'm going to come back for TRVL. All right, I'm going to take a 5-minute break. It's good when I take a 5-minute break because it creates a gap in the stream, and so it makes my editing easier. 5-minute break, and then I will look at TRVL. Okay.